When I was pulling the list together, there were 3 mutants that kept cropping up, and I have talked about them before. They're 3 Omega level mutants: Iceman, Storm and Magneto. And not only do I talk about how powerful they are in the comics, but I also go over how the movie version sucked balls. Check them all out here. Firstly, all of these mutants that I'm going to talk about today, except one technically, are Omega level. They're the creme de la creme of the mutants, defined as a mutant whose dominant power is deemed to register or reach an undefinable upper limit of that power's specific classification. So let's get cracking, and needless to say, there are some spoilers for recent storylines. You've been warned. And first cab off the rank in my list, that is not in any particular order, but I will end with who I think is the most powerful, is Joshua Foley, aka Elixir. Some people will shout, Joshua Foley, he just heals people, get the fuck out of here. And those people can shut their dirty mouths. The man isn't just a healer, he's an Omega class mutant with the power of biokinesis, yeah? So yes, he can heal, but he's also capable of controlling the biological structure of his own and other people's bodies down to the genetic level, okay? Elixir started out as a Reaver, Donald Pierce's anti-mutant group, because that's what young boys do, right? You get caught up in hate groups. But during a fight with a couple of the X-Men, he accidentally healed a Reaver. Ugh, he's a dirty mutant. He hides it by knocking the guy out, but when he rejects the X-Mansion and goes back to his beloved Reavers, not only do they beat him up and kick him out, but his parents disown him, the cunts. A bit like what happened to poor old Darwin, the unkillable mutant that Fox Studios managed to kill. See a very popular video on him here. So Josh finally moves to the X-Mansion after turning down the free room and board several times, the idiot, and he starts fancying a wannabe teacher, Rain Sinclair. Kissing her transforms her to a werewolf, and it's a little bit kinky at first, but then she attacks Josh, and to heal himself he ends up with that signature gold look that we all know and love. It didn't
stay gold
for long though, because after M-Day, thanks Wanda, you were nearly on this list. That evil shit William Stryker organised blowing up a bus leaving the X-Mansion, killing 42 depowered students with a few of Josh's friends included. That shit stayed with me when I read it. So eventually Elixir gets his hands on Stryker, and turns out he can also kill the shit out of people. And he does it nice and painfully for Stryker. And Josh's skin turns black now because of death, you see. For more on what Stryker got up to, because obviously he doesn't stay dead, you can check out my video on the Weapons of Mutant Destruction storyline featuring a Hulk-Wolverine hybrid. Oh, and also this mini episode on Azazel helping Weapon X-Force take down Stryker while he's in hell. Anyway, Josh can't just heal and kill, he can also resurrect people over and over, like he does with this Baden here gauntlet. This is after dying himself and being resurrected. Oh yes, he is functionally immortal, as he can resurrect himself. And now he can do it at scale without touching people. He not only went and nearly resurrected 16 million of the mutants killed on Genosha, not quite though, he can also use his death touch power on big dogs, including people who have ridiculous healing abilities. And he's now in a team that brings mutants back to life on the regular, the Five. So people, I hope you understand now that Josh Foley is a badass. Look at him putting a tumour in the shape of an X on Vanisher when he healed him. And hence why peeps are always trying to kill him even though it won't work. Next up on our list is one of the more distinguished mutants, Benet du Paris, aka Exodus. One of the older mutants around, Exodus is a badass when it comes to psionic manipulation, plus a load of other stuff. He was created in the 90s when there were a lot of big over-the-top characters, but he was criminally underused. He started out involved with Apocalypse, one of the biggest bads ever, as one of his henchmen, but eventually rebelled, calling Apocalypse a false god. How dare he? This resulted in a beatdown from the big blue-lipped one, stripping him of his powers and locking him up in a tomb. Bit harsh if you ask me. Luckily another big bad, Magneto, found him and made him a henchman again. Come on Bennett, stand up for yourself. Xavier helped him on this front by wiping Magneto's mind, freeing up a leader of the Acolytes, and into that power vacuum, our man Benet stepped up. Pretty soon after, he shows some power, easily beating some of the top X-Men and Avengers, but then he does get knocked the fuck out by Quicksilver. And then he gets beaten by an old mate, the Black Knight, aka Jon Snow, who puts him back in his tomb. After a while, he tries to be good, and he pretends to be Magneto and bring peace to Genosha, but it doesn't work. Most recently, Exodus is on the Quiet Council of Krakoa because he's such a big dog. But what can he do? So as mentioned, he's a master of psionic power, mainly telekinesis. He's a bit like Dr. Manhattan. He can control things down to the molecular level. He even helped repair Charlie Xavier's brain after he was shot. The psionic power gives him all the standard stuff: force fields, energy projection, teleportation, flight, healing, etc. And he's also a decent telepath. One of the interesting aspects of his powers though is that as people have faith and confidence in him, his powers increase. Perfect for starting a religion, eh? There's actually a future where, thanks to Mr. Sinister, Exodus started his own galaxy-spanning religion, being powered by the Phoenix Force. But there are multiple clones of him, and every now and then they clash, and because they're so fucking powerful, when they do, entire solar systems are scorched. That's power, boy! This is also a future where Sinister has cloned Sebastian Shaw, and uses his raw body meat to power his spaceships. Nice! He also may be immortal as well. 2 for 2 so far. Next on our list is a clone of someone I've covered before. It's STRYFE, aka Cable without the TO virus. I talk about Cable in my X-Men Heroes video. Done very well in the movies if I do say so myself, if maybe not powerful enough. STRYFE was created after Apocalypse gave baby Cable the techno-organic virus, the big shit. Mother Ascani, the mastermind behind Cable being the man to bring down Apocalypse, had cloned him because they thought the TO virus would kill him, and then who would take down the big dude? Apocalypse then came for Cable with the aim of using his lovely body as a host, but took STRYFE instead, raising him to be a real dickhead, and later realising that STRYFE is in fact a clone and unable to house his essence. After Apocalypse was destroyed thanks to a time-travelling Cyclops and Jean Grey, STRYFE escaped with Chevere, a mutant from the time period who was Apocalypse's aide but rebelled. During this period, STRYFE went insane, thinking he was the real Nathan and Cable was a clone, a more extreme version of the Maulers.
I'm the clone. For the first time, we know exactly who's the original and who's the inferior.
As he got older and more crazy, even Chevere got worried and tried to kill him, and got his mind fried as a result. STRYFE starts wearing some very OTT armour and has several clashes with Cable in the future, the armour hiding the fact they look exactly the same. A big moment in the Cable and STRYFE. Oh, that could be Cockney rhyming slang for wife.
Has anyone seen me haddock? Because I was looking for me haddock. I'd lost me haddock, and a haddock and bloater is a motor.
Oh, the old Cable and STRYFE. Anyway, a big moment was in Executioner's Song, an annoyingly spelt storyline where STRYFE had had enough of all the people treating him badly, the poor thing, and so he posed as Cable and tried to assassinate Professor X. The bullet he shot infected Charlie with the TO virus, which couldn't be cured at that point in time. He then woke up Apocalypse, who'd never actually met STRYFE in his big grown-up sexy form, beat the snot out of him, and then promptly killed him with a big old sword and took over his Dark Riders. It all culminated in a battle between Cable and STRYFE, which ended apparently with STRYFE's body being destroyed, but his mind, or soul, or whatever, existing in Cable's body. All this being peak 90s comics artwork. During all this, STRYFE also gave Mr. Sinister the Legacy Virus, a plague that killed mutants, which took out a few people and resulted in one of my faves, the big man Colossus, sacrificing himself. Don't worry, he came back in epic fashion. Then there was all the stuff with Hope and the Mutant Messiah, more on her later. He tried to make her his vessel like Apocalypse would do, but ended up being dragged off by Apocalypse to be experimented on for years. He was briefly involved with Kang the Conqueror, or what could have been, helping to stop the Apocalypse twins. More on them in my Kang the Conqueror video that has a title and thumbnail that kind of predicted the future. So, STRYFE wasn't on the House of X list of Omega level mutants, but he basically is. He certainly thinks so anyway. He's just not from the 616 universe. Cable's super powerful but has to keep his TO virus in check, whereas STRYFE doesn't have that problem. He's one of the most powerful telekinetics ever. He's strong enough as well to swing Wolverine around like he's a weapon, which is objectively hilarious. He's fast enough to intercept bullets. He's tough enough to tank a smack from Colossus, the dumb ox. And then there's the force fields which stop most stuff. His telekinesis dwarfs Cable's, in the big man's own words. And he can do things like take Bishop's arm apart precisely with it. His telepathy can do things like make Thunderbird or Wolverine attack themselves. And he makes Hope mimic his powers all while he's got a hole in his stomach. Unreal. And he can take down X-Forces all day long. So that's STRYFE. He's a bit of a cunt who potentially raped his clone's wife. Yeesh. Respect the power set, maybe. Okay, next in the list, we've talked about her already. It's Hope Summers, the Mutant Messiah. She was the first mutant born after M-Day. It caused a real stir, frying Cerebro, and causing every man and his dog to descend upon Cooperstown, Alaska, causing some carnage. The Purifiers, oh I don't like them, they killed everyone including Hope's mum, but after a hectic battle including Wolverine getting swallowed and clawing his way out of a mutant eating monster, our man Cable saved her and took her into the future. You may wonder why Bishop tried to shoot him. Well, he thought she would be responsible for the crappy timeline he came from. See the video on him here. Throughout her adventures, her power just attracts wrong-uns. As we've chatted about, STRYFE was after her to take over her body, and so was Apocalypse, as well as the Purifiers and the smiley faces. Okay. And guess what? The Brood were also attracted to her power. But Bishop was the main man on a mission to get her, and he triggers her power. First taking Cable's telekinesis, then smashing Bishop with his own energy blast. She's mega powerful already, and because the way that their time-travelling devices were linked, Bishop chased them through multiple time periods until Cable managed to send him to the year 6700 AD with no way to get back. Yeesh. Back in the present, a big old battle happened between Bastion, the human Sentinel hybrid who orchestrated everything to kill Hope, and the X-Men, and resulted in Nightcrawler sacrificing himself in a heart-wrenching scene. That one hurt me real bad. And just when we were down, Cable sacrificed himself. Come on, man, 2 heroes in one storyline. This sets Hope over the edge. Bastion's response? Die. But she uses her power, which is to mimic other mutants' powers. She used all the X-Men's power in one to take Bastion down. We're talking armor, Cyclops, Colossus, beating the shit out of Bastion and looking especially Phoenixy at the end there too. She then formed her own team called The Lights, mutants who were discovered after she was born, after no new mutants were being discovered post-M-Day. Unfortunately, none of which had the mutant power of coming up with a good team name. There were some shenanigans with the God of Fear and his minions like Kurth. She was a bit inappropriate with Namor while in a team with him, but got rejected even after he kissed this thing. And then yay, Cable came back from the future, ravaged by the TO virus and trying to stop the Avengers from killing Hope. To help Cable get rid of the TO virus, Hope ends up manifesting the Phoenix Force, probably the most powerful entity in the universe. So much more on the Phoenix later, don't worry. After the Phoenix used 5 mutants to host itself, Cyclops went full Dark Phoenix. You never go full Dark Phoenix. And so Hope took it over, and along with Wanda, undid the effects of M-Day, allowing mutants to be born again, yay. In the process, she apparently got rid of the Phoenix, went searching for Cable in a jetpack, did some other stuff like riding Juggernaut, and then ended up on the Krakoa Quiet Council after being part of the 5 that resurrect dead mutants. Blimey. So yeah, she's not only super important, she's mega powerful. She's Omega level and can just use anyone's power immediately and to its full capacity, even if the person who she's mimicking can't. So technically she can be a more powerful version of any mutant. Mr. Sinister is regarded as one of the most powerful telepaths in the world. He can battle Emma Frost and Charles Xavier for extended periods. But when Hope mimics our mate Exodus's power, she bypasses his defences, causing his failsafe to activate, blowing his bloody head off. She can take on multiple powers, like against Kurth in that Fear Itself run. It is a bit taxing on her though. And she can amp up the powers of people as well, like when she did for 2 big heavy hitters, Vulcan and Proteus, to terraform Mars, as well as other mutants to create a water ecosystem, with help from Jamie Braddock. More on him another time. Just look at her power grid. Mental. So that's Hope Summers. She'll be a key character for years to come. You just know it. Next up is another relatively new mutant to the franchise, Quintavious Quentin Quire, aka Kid Omega. And look, the clue's in the name. He's a super smart Omega level telepath. Telepath, which doesn't translate to creativity with a code name though. He starts at Xavier's school as a gifted telepath and telekinetic, yep, who's super smart. And he's a bit of a star pupil, with Xavier and him having debates on mutant-human coexistence. When he finds out he's adopted though, he gets a bit upset and gets a cool haircut and dresses a bit like old school skinheads did in the UK. He starts taking a drug called Kick that enhances powers. He forms a gang called the Omega Gang and calls himself Kid Omega. They go out, beat up and even kill some humans as revenge for a mutant death, then come back and incapacitate Professor X himself with a power dampening helmet and start a fucking riot. Proper skinhead behaviour. It's all to impress Sophie, one of the 5 Stepford Cuckoos, a bunch of psychics pictured here with a young Cable, and they all end up taking him down by embarrassing him telepathically or something, leaving him in a catatonic state so he can be put in a tub of green stuff in Beast's lab. His overdosing on Kick means that his psionic energy is consuming him, triggering a secondary mutation that allows him to telepathically connect with everyone on the planet across all time. His mind's now moving faster than the speed of light, so Zorn blasts him with his star head to make him leave the mortal plane. He's gotten so powerful now though that even while catatonic, the Phoenix Force, who happen to be passing, checks him out because it thinks he might be Jean Grey. And while it doesn't use him as a host, he does make it revive Sophie, who does not want to be brought back. Ew, whatever you Dorcas. At this point, he's just an essence in a jar, but this didn't stop him trying to control people. And eventually he was freed by the Hellfire Club's new Black King, a child who shoots his dad out of a flying car. Quentin's now back in an actual body, proclaiming his shitty name and making a load of world leaders confess their dirtiest secrets on live TV. No mentions of prostitutes, come on. When the schism between Cyclops and Wolverine happened, Wolvie took him onto his side as he knew Scott would just lock him up. Turns out Logan was right to take him on because he becomes a valuable asset helping the team out and infiltrating the Hellfire Club, which is the rival school set up by that patricidal child Cade Kilgore. Quentin's turned into a bit of a standard hero during this run. I'm not as much of a fan. He eventually leaves after inheriting a shit ton of money, gets fed up with people, and so exiles himself on an island. Then there's a big dust up between the Asgardians and the Shi'ar, where the Phoenix Force pops up again, and Thor asks Quentin to help. He gets an opening in the White Hot Room to give Thor a chance to beat it, and then Quentin himself gets a small portion of the power, and then gets eyed up to become a Shi'ar god. He loses the Phoenix power, however, saving Jubilee from some classic vampire sunlight death and curing her of her vampirism. And he ends up in the West Coast Avengers with kooky characters like Gwenpool, who he had a kind of thing with. Finally, he ends up on Krakoa with everyone else. He died a few times in the new X-Force, with the Five resurrecting him, until it all got mixed up and he ended up merging with a sentient Cerebro that killed mutants. He couldn't be resurrected, but it allowed him to traverse timelines, and he'd been to the future and back to help stop Beast, who was getting more and more evil. This ended with him being separated from Cerebrax, and most recently he was eaten by some multiversal Sabretooths. Woof! He's done a lot in his short time, but he is super fucking powerful. He's super duper smart. Early on, as mentioned, reverse engineering Magneto's helmet to incapacitate Professor X. He can hack into S.H.I.E.L.D.'s database nice and easily, and after using Kick-a-Load, can process 10 million brilliant thoughts per second. I mean, I'm sure they're not all brilliant. I bet he's got some real inane thoughts in there, like if a fly loses its wings, is it now called a walk? Despite all the attention on my telepathy, he's a fucking good telekinetic too, showing off a lot of it during his time with the West Coast Avengers, like carrying a bunch of cars in the air or deconstructing a car in the air. He also has a real knack for creating psychic constructs like weapons, but also things like bikes and tanks. I'm not really sure how they work, to be honest. In the Phoenix Endsong storyline, he flicks Wolverine away like he was nothing and breaks a container designed to keep the force of the Phoenix in it while holding Beast and Shadowcat in place. So telepathy, he's got the normal goods. He can turn off mutants' power to show the real slick. He disables a young Jean Grey, more on her next, while she was burning up with the Phoenix using a telepathic gun essentially. There's loads of examples, but some of the best stunts he's pulled though are against the OG Marvel hero Wolverine. He pulls information out of his head on how to fly and kill someone. He disables and controls a massive group of people and forces them to beat him up. He makes himself invisible to Wolvie's heightened senses. And the creme de la creme is creating an entire fake world in Wolverine's head, showcasing every single detail he has to process to maintain the reality of it, maintaining it for days. This is where that 10 million thoughts a second comes in. Wolvie afterwards admits that he was beaten and he didn't even know he was fighting. He was owned by Kid Omega and he needs him to make sure it doesn't happen again. So the dude is powerful. He's not that well written, if I'm being honest, going from this anarchist to a psionic hero, but hey, I'm just here to talk about raw power. Our final mutant for today is the OG, Jean Grey, aka sometimes Marvel Girl. Suffice to say, there's a lot of history here, so let's get to it. Buckle up and strap in for a whistle-stop tour through one of the most important mutants in history. So she got her powers when her friend was hit by a car, turning her into a telepathic telekinetic loner. Yeesh. Professor X turns up, blocks her telepathic tantrums and turns her into a psychic powerhouse who joins his school. She joins the OG X-Men, became Marvel Girl, and certainly caused a stir with the young men in the team. Back off, gents, for crying out loud. In a weird little reboot, she travelled to the future, thanks to Beast, and learns that being a psychic is hard. She went to Space Corps to stand trial for eventually becoming the Bad Phoenix, showed the Shi'ar her powers by beating up the powerhouse that is Gladiator, him with the hair. Phoenix crops up, warns Jean that it's coming, which leads to Jean impressing Galactus, that handsome devil, by using some purple Phoenix Force. And a brief stint as Poison Marvel Girl, where Jean merged with a symbiote and a poison. It's a long story. Back in retro X-Men times, she graduated the X-Men school and went to a regular college but got bored. Enter the Phoenix. The Firebird resurrected Jean after she sacrificed herself, then took her place. It showed off a bit, healing the M'Kraan crystal and saving everyone. She became Black Queen of the Hellfire Club and got some dominatrix clothes. She lets Cyclops see without blasting her to bits and has a bit of sex with him. Phoenix then got hungry and gobbled up a star and 5 billion people on a planet, calming down, then killing itself. But she's not really dead. Jean found herself in a cosmic tower, had a chat with Death, the construction worker version, and learned about the 3 phases of the Phoenix. Then a cosmic mix-up turned a Jean Grey clone, Mr. Sinister Maid, into Madeline Pryor, who also has a love for dominatrix clothing, complicating Scott's love life just a little bit as he only went and had a kid with her, bloody Nathan Summers' Cable. Jean's post-Phoenix nap turned into an Avengers Fantastic Four sleepover. She woke up sans telepathy, but with a side dish of upgraded telekinesis. Scott's marriage to Madeline hit rock bottom when Jean emerged from her cocoon. He ninja packed his bags and left, ignoring Madeline's warnings and ditching his kid. What a shit. Then, disturbed by the anti-mutant vibes and the X-Men's Magneto alliance, Jean and OG pals formed X-Factor, pretended to hunt mutants but actually taught them. Jean's love life drama then escalated when she realised Madeline looked exactly fucking like her. It's your clone, Jean. Then came Inferno. Madeline resurfaced, labelled herself Goblin Queen, finally got her sweet dominatrix clothes and plotted demonic sacrifices atop the Empire State Building, but Jean saves the day. Jean sheds Madeline and Phoenix personas. She's free at last, just in time for a Marvel Girl proposal rejection. Womp womp. All the stuff with Apocalypse, Nathan and the TO virus happened. Baby Nathan got sent to the future. During a fight with the Dark Rider Synapse, Jean gets her telepathy back, bonus, and joins the X-Men Gold Team and drops the name Marvel Girl. It's a rubbish code name, good riddance. She found herself in Emma Frost's body, got rescued. More shenanigans with Sinister and STRYFE, see earlier. And Scott and Jean finally tied the knot, cue the mutant wedding bells. While on honeymoon though, this is when they got time travel to the future to raise Cable and destroy Apocalypse. Again, see the STRYFE section. Onslaught time! Jean faced Onslaught's tempting Phoenix offer on the astral plane. Xavier's hidden crush was revealed, gross. Jean discovers Nate Grey, more on him later, but he's pretty powerful, and he resurrects Madeline Pryor by mistake, nice one. A bomb in Scott's chest makes them think, let's retire for a bit, but they come back, fight Apocalypse, with Scott merging with the blue-lipped one. Scott returns in Egypt with a monkey and doesn't need a visor, so Jean and Cable smash Apocalypse out of him. Jean becomes headmistress of the X-Men school. Scott's a bit weird now. Jean isn't happy. She kisses Wolverine. Emma Frost sneaks into Scott's mind, featuring some Phoenix roleplay games, a love triangle, and some telepathic truth-telling featuring the Phoenix. But after Emma is shot and shattered, Jean rebuilds her at the molecular level. That's power. And it was Esme all along. Jean ends up on Asteroid M with Wolvie. He kills her to spare her a slow burning death by the sun. But he wakes the Phoenix. It takes them to New York, where she's killed by Magneto with an electromagnetic pulse causing a stroke. End of Jean Grey. Of course not. We get to the Quentin Quire bit now. Phoenix comes sniffing for Jean, tries to resurrect her, and eventually does. Wolvie kills her over and over until he actually manages to weaken the Phoenix, and Jean freezes herself to death. Phoenix comes back though, it's like a bloody boomerang. And takes the form of Jean, then takes over Emma Frost because Scott loves her. Jean has enough. She calms the Phoenix down, but it merges with her again and becomes a Dark Phoenix, talking about killing billions more, which prompts the Shi'ar to send a big beam down to kill her, but she becomes White Phoenix of the Crown, saves everyone, and then wants to find fragments of the missing Phoenix power, so she's gonzo. Phoenix tries her Jean's back illusion. Jean plays psychic detective, turns down the offer. She's free. All of a sudden, Jean's in a reality where mutants can't date. She has a forbidden love affair with Bishop on a sofa. It's shenanigans thanks to that Nate Grey X-Man. Creating this reality is hard though, and it goes back to normal. We're in House of X territory now. Jean's dressed all retro, nice mask, and joins Krakoa, gets handed a task to destroy Nimrod, as you do. Orcus attack, the X-Men die, what? But here comes the 5. It's our friend Hope Summers with Eva Bell, Proteus, Elixir, and, Gold Balls. And what do you know? They can resurrect mutants, how convenient. Jean gets pulled back into the drama when she's on the Quiet Council with our other mate Exodus. She brings back Xavier from being killed and joins the latest X-Force now with Quintavarious Choir. Do they really need 2 people with the same power set? Oh wait, Jean's ditched the Quiet Council to go on a family rescue mission in Otherworld and joins a new team of X-Men. After a bit, the Eternals, yeah, that lot, they think mutants are deviants. They bring the Progenitor back to life, who decides it's Judgment Day for all of Earth. Earth's heroes crumble against the Progenitor, but a resurrected Jean helps the Eternals take their mad god down. Jean then forms the Phoenix Foundation, sharing the gift of resurrection with humanity. How generous. But Madeline Pryor's back. She throws a Christmas fit and attacks New York City. Jean goes to Limbo, slaps some sense into Maddie, saves Christmas, and Limbo gets an embassy in New York. Okay. There's a skirmish with the Brood and Nightmare, which results in Jean and Scott splitting again, and Jean leaving the X-Men. Oof. So there you have it. Some more stuff happened more recently, but let's not be too spoilerific, okay? So listen, Jean Grey is just uber powerful. She's probably one of the most powerful and skilled telepaths in the entire Marvel universe. And when she's one with the Phoenix Force, which is like the second most powerful abstract entity after the one above all, forget about it. We've seen some of the most powerful things she's done in that Whistle Stop tour, and you may wonder why I didn't cover her in a comics versus movies video, and it's because, well, in the movies, fair play, by the end Sophie Turner was very powerful, being very phoenixy. And if you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, check out my other videos. In the comics, one of the most impressive feats, aside from all the Phoenix Force stuff, is when she took on Null, a big bad, who I might cover another time. She read his mind and his entire history in seconds to figure out how to defeat him. The thing with Null is, he's the king in black. He's the centre of the hive mind of all the symbiotes across the universe through all time. So Jean processed all of this in seconds. That's how skilled she is. All there's when she held apart a miniature sun to take down the progenitor. A miniature sun. All while protecting the team from the weight of a celestial presence. Or there's when she took down Nightmare, a cosmic powered class 3 demon. He's an absolute psychic force to be reckoned with, and Jean just embarrassed him. We all know Juggernaut and Magneto have helmets that block telepathy. Not a problem for Jeanie Grey. And finally, one of the most batshit crazy displays of power was with another Omega we've talked about, Quentin Quire, and another Omega, Jamie Braddock, who will feature next time, where she convinced him to give birth to a space station by some insane alien chestburster / cesarean delivery. Wild. He fucking loved it, the nutcase. So, whilst not perhaps the most powerful, I think you'll agree that you have to respect Jean Grey. She's been through a lot. And with that, we're done with part 1 of this list of the most powerful mutants. If you're still here, thank you very much. This one took a while. Chuck us a like if you liked it. And if you want more, subscribe. And look, stay tuned for part 2 whenever I can get around to it. Cheers.